Ladies and gentlemen, live from the West Coast, it's time for Ring Talk Live Worldwide.
Hey, yo.
For over 30 years, and still, your inside look into boxing and mixed martial arts.
You know what? As long as she fights at 135 pounds, I don't care if she's injecting a horse demon into her eyeballs.
Heard live around the world and brought to you by the World Boxing Organization. And now, live from the Ring Talk Studios in San Francisco, here's the host of the longest-running fight show in history, Pedro Fernandez.
Damas y caballeros, bienvenidos, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the multi-million-dollar Sports Byline Studios in San Francisco, California. Check it, sports fans. This is Ring Talk Live Worldwide. 35 plus years. Now get this, 36 years, the second week of September of radio presence. Ring Talk Live Worldwide Network since 1989, of course, started in 84. Bottom line is, we've been here 36 years. 36 years, we're rocking and rolling. Of course, this is your show as well, so you can join me on the tour if you'd like, because I've got some great guests today. Who am I? My name is Pedro Fernandez, reigning the undisputed heavyweight champion of the radio airwaves, folks. Often imitated, but never duplicated. My guest today will include the retired HBO Godfather. That's right, Larry Merchant will be announced. But wait, we're not done with Larry's. Larry Holmes will be here, the former undisputed world heavyweight champion, the Easton Assassin, the mayor of Easton, Pennsylvania. When I need something done in Easton, a pothole, I just call Larry. Bottom line is, Larry will be here in hour number 2 of Ring Talk Live Worldwide. That's right, 2 hours of Ring Talk Live Worldwide today on Sports Byline, iHeartRadio, Sirius XM Satellite Radio, Channel 211, iTunes, Stitcher.com, TuneIn.com. Bottom line is, you can always catch us live at SportsByline.com. So I've got a slew of guests. My man, the undefeated lad from Las Vegas, Johnny Signorello, will be here. We'll hear from some other boxers as well. And in hour number 2, I'll delve into the Gracie conspiracy. That's right. Did the Gracies conspire to win the UFC, the first one with Royce Gracie? We'll hear about that in depth with an interview with Bill Superfoot Wallace. That and more today on Ring Talk Live Worldwide, August 11, 2019, 2-hour edition, live from the Sports Byline Studios in San Francisco, California.
You want me to be your lady. Now
Let's take it to Las Vegas, Sin City, Las Vegas, baby, and bring in the undefeated lad. I'm talking about Mr. John Signorello. Johnny, talk to me last night. Virgil Ortiz, the real deal?
Oh, Virgil looking good last night with a 6-round knockout over Antonio Orozco at 147 pounds. Virgil Ortiz improves to 14-0 with 14 KOs on the zone.
Didn't answer the question. Is he the real deal?
Yes, I believe so. Youthful. Great athleticism. He's got to chill out, though, with the combination, especially early in the fight, because he got hit a little too much for me. I want to see a little bit more defense for Mr. Ortiz. He's young. He's hungry. Hopefully they'll work on that defense side. But offensively, very strong.
He looked just like me. I don't want to brag or boast or anything like that, but that's what it sort of reminded me of, just going out there and saying, ding, let's do it. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got no time to play around here, man. Let's do this. And he went out there, and from the very first round with a nice body shot, man, Mr. Ortiz took control.
Hey, ding, school's in. I tell you what, he went after Orozco early, and Orozco looked like he collapsed a little bit on the ropes, holding him up there.
Yeah.
It should have been ruled a knockdown, but Orozco ends up going down 3 times from a barrage of punishment in round number 6.
Amazing win for the young man. Orozco came in at, 28-1 with 17 whacks?
Yeah, that's correct. Now he's 28-2. Yeah.
What can you say? All right, what were the other highlights of the weekend? Now, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. knocked out some schmo. I was told the guy was a schmo beforehand. I didn't want to say it on the radio, but I'm saying it now. The guy was a schmo, wasn't he?
Yeah, he came in at Estado Marquez, I believe his name is, 25-11 and 1 with 19 KOs. Now after last night getting knocked out by Julio Cesar Chavez in Mexico, Jr., that is, of course, in Mexico. I tell you what, though, a guy that impressed me last night over in Philly on ESPN Plus is up-and-coming kid Edgar Berlanga. Ready for this, Pedro? 12-0, 12 KOs, all of his KOs in the first round.
Wow. Hey, so
Yeah.
time out. There was a big of an upset last night, speaking of Philadelphia. Unheralded Adon Gonzalez, now 5-2 with a couple of draws and 2 KOs. He beat the two-time Olympic gold medalist Robesi Ramirez in his pro debut.
That's a huge upset. You're talking about a two-time gold medal Olympian in his pro debut at featherweight getting beat up by a guy that most people would consider a journeyman at best. Some people might refer to him as a tomato can, but that guy last night hit the jackpot.
I'll say it again. You can never truly evaluate Cuban fighters when you bring them over here because of the difference in society. The fact they can have food, the fact that all these different things that weren't available to them before are available to them now. And it's like putting a kid in a candy store and telling him he can't eat candy. You know what I'm saying? So these guys, I think they sort of like lack discipline.
Yeah, I could not have said that better myself. It's hard to gauge and read these guys. We know that usually they have a tremendous amateur background as the two-time Olympian gold medalist. You know, it's proven to have shown. I mean, you win the Olympics twice. You have an amateur background that's very strong, but we never know what we're going to get.
Did you know how pissed off the Cubans are about this?
They got to be really
I got a phone call this morning from Fidel, and he's dead.
No kidding.
You're tuned to Ring Talk Live worldwide, baby, on Sports Byline, iHeartRadio, Sirius XM Satellite Radio, of course, Channel 211, the Dan Patrick Channel. My name is Pedro Fernandez. The guy on the phone, of course, from Skype, on Skype from Las Vegas is the right hand here. Of course, talking about Mr. John Signorella. And, John, what were the other weekend highlights for you? Mr. Sosa fought on ESPN Plus. Was that a good card?
Yeah, the ESPN Plus card I enjoyed a lot from Philly last night. And Jason Sosa won last night with a TKO over Haskell Rhodes at 130. Knocked down Rhodes 3 times. Looked pretty strong. They're talking about possibly Miguel Burchett next. Miguel Burchett is nasty. I don't know if Sosa's ready for that assignment yet, but I wouldn't mind seeing it if it should happen.
Jaime Munguia's coming back. Of course, came off that fight, which he lost. I mean, he lost. Everybody knew he lost. And everybody in the world. Didn't he lose that, Johnny?
Yeah, he didn't look so hot that night.
He didn't look
so even took his poster down.
Yeah, exactly. We took his poster. We took his poster down. 33-0, 26 KOs. Takes on Patrick Alati, 43 with 30 KOs. Is Alati a lot?
No, a whole lot of nothing there. The zone needed September 14th because of the vacated Canelo, usual over Mexican Independence Day. He would fight. They couldn't get Triple G to lace him up. They needed someone. They put this together totally last minute on the fly on a month's notice. So this is what you get. But I do hear that Ryan Garcia is returning, so that should get some attention on that card.
Tyson Fury's coming back against a guy named Otto Wallen. Who the hell is Otto Wallen?
I have no clue. And if I don't know who you are in the world of boxing, that's not a good look.
He doesn't. I don't think he has a record with BoxRec.
No, he doesn't. You know what? I had to dig deep. You're absolutely correct.
Am I right? Am I right on that one?
Yeah. I had to find. I dug deep. I got him. Ready? 20-0, 13 KOs. I got
it. Because I was looking around for the dude. I can't find. Where's Otto? Like, where's Waldo? I couldn't find Otto. Of course, Tyson Fury coming off that spectacular win over the over his head, Tom Schwartz, and of course that took place June 15th, and that was on ESPN Plus. This is an ESPN Plus fight too.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Are the apps, will you explain to my older listeners, to our older listeners, why they've got to get hip to the apps, and if they don't, they're just going to be left out in the cold?
They usually run a card every weekend, and if one's not, chances are another one is. So 52 weeks out of the year, you're pretty much guaranteed a boxing event. Or if you're into combat sports in general, DAZN has, of course, Bellator, and ESPN and ESPN Plus have UFC.
Okay. Speaking of the UFC, we'll get to that in a little bit. Is the UFC, how can I put this? Is the UFC starting to fade? Is there? Do you think it's starting to go? I mean, the WWE ratings are way down. Are the UFC ratings starting to slide? Because I just don't see the entertainment factor. I just see a whole lot of brutality.
You know, that, and they're just oversaturating the market right now. I was watching this card last night. There was 14 scheduled bouts, in which 13 had transpired yesterday. And we're seeing it every week. And for me, the UFC doesn't hold my attention like boxing does. I could watch boxing week in and week out. I love combat sports in general. The UFC, I need names. I need more name recognition, more brand recognition. And to answer your question, when they have name recognition, I think the ratings do very well when you have like guys like Anthony Pettis and Max Holloway out there. But like a card like last night, not so much. But however, I tell you what, man, Mike Perry's nose last night, yikes.
See, yikes. There shouldn't be a whole lot of yikes in sports, man, even in combat sports. Bottom line is, Mr. Yikes will return a little bit later. I'm talking about Johnny Signorella. You are tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide. You're inside looking at the world of boxing and MMA. Next up, the retired HBO Godfather in the house. That's right, Elvis himself, Mr. Larry Merchant. Open phone lines around the planet, 1-800-878-7529. That's 1-800-878-7529. Or shoot us a studio text. Text me in the studio. The text line, 415-275-1613. The text line, once again, the Ring Talk text line. Text us in the studio, 415-275-1613. You're tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide, baby. But you know that.
How did I get up from the knockdowns? I don't know.
You're the reason why I sing this song.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird.
It's a plane!
It's our own Godfather, Larry Merchant. Larry, a very good Sunday morning to you, sir.
Back at you, Pedro.
Life is good. And listen, you and I have been in this game a little while, and we've always been hearing for decades how there was going to be fights in Brunei and Saudi Arabia and big fights and this and that. So finally, Saudi Arabia lands a big fight, the Joshua-Andy Ruiz rematch.
Isn't it in Dubai?
I was told it was going to be in Saudi Arabia. It's going to be in Dubai. Saudi Arabia, Dubai, doesn't matter. It's still over there.
Yes, but I love the name Dubai. They're asking you to come over there and buy a lot of stuff. It's a hub of visitors and water sports and malls and such.
And Godfather,
so I'm not surprised that ultimately a big fight would get there. It's been talked about for years, as you reminded us.
Having spent 2 weeks in Dubai, I was sick for a week, spent like a week on IV fluids and all that kind of good stuff, so it wasn't a good trip. And I discovered there were only two types of women in Dubai. Hookers and women that wore the burqas. The women's without the burqas were hookers. It was really strange. It was a strange environment. Of course, that was about 8 or 10 years ago. But Dubai didn't treat me good. The food was bad. Godfather, you know how it is. Travel around the world. You risk your own peril when you eat their food.
True that, but they seem to have survived very well. Over 3 million people live in Dubai.
Yeah.
And millions of tourists come there annually. Which is it's considered an attraction for the millionaires and multimillionaires and billionaires of Europe, and to see how the smaller half, but the bigger spenders do their stuff, and a big heavyweight championship fight will undoubtedly attract a lot of them.
Godfather, do you remember Harold Smith in the Muhammad Ali Sports? Remember the hustle?
Yes, I do. He conned banks out of a lot of money, projecting the idea that he would take over boxing, and soon went broke.
Exactly, but what he was doing is he was embezzling money, but he never walked into an actual bank. He spent a couple years in prison. Anyway, he was over in Dubai about 5-6 years ago trying to put together a card, and I looked on Fight News or one of those websites, and he had to put together a card, but it was a subpar, not, like guys who were 13 and 19, taking off the guys who were 13 and 19, and stuff like that, so it wasn't really a professional card. But now Dubai, they're willing to spend money. Saudi Arabia is willing to spend money. Of course, Mr. Amir Khan went over there and fought a featherweight. He made a bunch of money. He's happy. He wants to go back. Is this a signal of the the money gates of Saudi of the Middle East opening up for boxing? Because when Prince Hassim Ahmed fought, he made more money selling TV rights over there than he did from HBO.
Well, we'll see about that. When I left HBO, I did some international fights for Bob Arum, where we went to Hong Kong and China and did a half a dozen fights, as I say. And he thought that this would be a big breakout, but it's broken back in. But there are people who will try. There are places all over the planet that would love to put on a heavyweight championship fight. Jack Dempsey fought in Montana once, and that seems right now farther away from the center of boxing in America than Dubai does.
Is Andy Ruiz in your mind, when you look at this fight on paper, the rematch, would you pick Andy Ruiz to win the rematch, Godfather?
I would seriously consider it. Somebody would have to talk me out of it because I'm not sure that the British fighter has ever seen anybody quite like him. I don't know if any of us have seen someone quite like him recently. A guy who's got punch and punch.
But what I noticed most about the Joshua fight was that he broke Joshua's spirit. He took it. It seemed like he extracted his heart from him and broke his spirit because he was a reluctant warrior there at the end. He wasn't telling the referee, "Okay, baby, let's go."
Well, I think he was probably in shock by how a late substitute was
kicking his
showing
ass.
him a part of boxing he hadn't seen before, a pressure fighter who could take a punch, and he just wasn't prepared. And whether he had put in enough miles and enough rounds in preparation, I don't know. But you can put in all the miles and have all the rounds in the world, and you walk into the ring and suddenly there's somebody there you've never imagined before and anyone or competed against anyone like him before, and you have no answers. Shock ought to be the proper response when something like that happens.
August 31st, maybe the pound-for-pound best fighter in boxing right now, Vasyl Lomachenko, coming back against 5'11" Luke Campbell in like three of the lightweight belts. Teofimo Lopez, another undefeated lightweight, didn't look that good against that 6-foot Japanese guy, Nakatani, a few weeks ago. Is Lomachenko going to be able to, how can I put this, neutralize anything Luke Campbell brings to the dance?
Well, he's done pretty well so far since his first professional fight, and he is a phenomenal young athlete. So until otherwise proven, or proven otherwise, I don't see anybody that can seriously compete with him, with the possible exception of Mikey Garcia.
I went to a retired boxers meeting here in Northern California in San Francisco a couple weeks ago and got into an argument with some old guy over Mikey Garcia, and he's screaming at me. He goes, "The guy's 39-1. What the hell did you ever do?" And all I said was, he didn't throw a meaningful punch in 12 rounds of boxing that I saw. That's all I said, and the guy went like berserk on me. But anyway, bottom line is, Mikey Garcia looking for the paydays and not the big fights. Do you know what I mean by that, Godfather? In other words, he's looking for money and the big paydays. Maybe
Where
at
can he
welterweight.
make more money than for fighting Lomachenko?
Spence. I think he thinks he can make more money fighting Spence.
Again?
Well,
What do you think?
Who was the other welterweight he was talking about a couple weeks ago? He was talking about fighting another welterweight. I mean, he isn't talking about coming back down to 135. He's talking about fighting at 147.
Well, I don't know about that, and it's conceivably true. But all I'm saying is that we know him best as a lightweight and a junior lightweight, and as a damn good one. And as I said, I can't think of anybody else who can seriously compete against Lomachenko.
Good point. August 21st, ESPN Plus. You got to have the app, baby. Sergey Kovalev, the twice-beaten world light heavyweight champion, taking on Anthony Yarde. Yarde is once beaten, but he is, I think he's from the UK, and he's trained and managed by Andre Ward and the team up here in Oakland, California. And of course, Andre Ward was the guy that broke Kovalev down. Is there some correlation there?
Perhaps. I don't know much about the fighter. In fact, I know less than that even about him. But it seems like a logical step for the young man to train for a big fight. But I don't know if he's in that class or not.
Did you happen to get a chance to look at Virgil Ortiz last night?
Nope.
Okay, he was on the zone. Check him out. He went 6 rounds. He beat a guy in Antonio Orozco. He just beat him up pretty bad, but it was Orozco came in like 26-1, 27-1 with 17 whacks, and Ortiz came in 13-0, 13 whacks, and ended in 6 rounds. But he's another force at 147. This 147-pound weight class, it might be Crawford. That's who he was talking about. That's who Mikey Garcia wanted to fight. He wanted to fight Crawford.
Well, okay. You and I and all the insiders in boxing know Crawford, but I don't think he's known beyond that and beyond Omaha, Nebraska, where he's from. I don't know what kind of an attraction he is and how much money that a fight like that would generate, but it would be a significant prize fight, and I would love to see it.
Okay, Tyson Fury is taking on a guy named Otto Wallen, and we can't find who Otto Wallen is. He's like, now we found him finally, 20-0. But I'm telling you, Godfather, we had to research and look under rocks to find out who this guy was that Tyson Fury is going to fight. I think it's September 14th.
Well, maybe if he's the alter ego of Luis.
No.
He can give Tyson Fury all he can handle.
Deontay Wilder faced much of a test in a 40-year-old Cuban in Luis Ortiz.
I'm sorry I missed that question.
Does Deontay Wilder face much of a test with the 40-year-old Luis Ortiz in a rematch?
Well, at the same time as I have to think that he beat him once and he'll beat him again, it seems like there is a danger element. If you recall, in their original fight, Wilder was really hurt and proved his mettle when he came back from being almost out on his feet. So they must have a lot of confidence that he can do it again, but it would seem something of a risk.
I got one question. I hope you can answer it like in 35 seconds or less. Why was Jerry Cooney introduced second after Larry Holmes when they fought in 1982?
Wasn't Larry Holmes the champion?
Exactly.
And so?
And Jerry Cooney was announced second. And there was Andrews Holmes first and Cooney second.
Oh, I see. Well, if you recall, there was a lot of underlying racial situations in that promotion in which Jerry could be treated as the champion. But Holmes allowed all that stuff to go on, and when he got in the ring, he beat Jerry Cooney up.
He sure did. Godfather, you say hello to the Godmama for me. I still want to have dinner with her real soon. And you take care and have a great weekend, okay?
Same to you.
Larry Merchant, fool, baby, the Hall of Famer himself, Mr. HBO. When we talk HBO boxing, it was Larry Merchant. You are tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide. You're inside looking at the world of combat sports, both boxing and MMA. The Sunday edition, 2 hours. We start at 11 a.m. Pacific time.
Baby, baby. Clap your hands, sir. Stop being racist. Clap your hands. Baby, baby, baby. Baby, baby. I got the feeling, baby.
Dr. Fernandez, outside call on line 9. Dr. Fernandez, outside call on line 9.
Now, more of Ring Talk with Pedro Fernandez.
Because he's a bum?
Darkest of night with the moon
shining bright. There's a set going strong, a lot of things going on. The man of the hour has an air of great power. The dudes have envied him for so long. Oh, Superfly.
Mother said it's not bragging when you're telling the truth. Only, son, don't be too honest. Those people resent honesty. Straight up, you are tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide. You're inside the world of boxing and MMA. Last night, Valentina Shevchenko, well, she beat Liz Carmouche. She licked her like a stamp, and Liz Carmouche's a lesbian, so I didn't mean that in a sexual manner, but the bottom line was she was licked like a stamp. The scorecards were 50-45 across the board. That means 5 rounds of zip. Not a round went to Liz Carmouche. Carmouche, of course, lasted about 15 seconds with Ronda Rousey. Remember, she was talking all that smack about Ronda and this and that. She was going to do this to Ronda, do that to Ronda. She got done in by Ronda like in the blink of an eye. Anyway, Valentina Shevchenko, these girls fighting at 125 pounds, won a title fight last night in a 5-round decision. Some other people on the card, who knows? Mike Perry, his nose was looking pretty bad. We heard about that earlier, a split decision loss to Vicente Luque. What I'm trying to tell you is, you know, when you see these guys with their noses hanging out and that kind of good stuff, the fight, I banged on the table. The fight should be stopped. The fight should be stopped. When a guy's eyes hanging out and his face is all deformed and this kind of stuff, you stop fights. That's what you do. This is inhumane. I mean, I'm a combat sports freak, but I keep saying it week after week after week after week after week after week. The cornermen need to step up and tell Dana White, hey, guess what, Dana? You can bop me. Because I'm going to throw in the towel when my guy is hurt. Because you don't see these guys throwing in the towel at all. It's not a coincidence. They're told not to throw in that towel. You can't tell me that. I haven't seen a towel in the UFC in months. Months of fights. Months. Haven't seen one. Can't remember the last time I seen a towel go over the cage. Can't remember that. Why? Because it's not part of the mentality. The mentality of the UFC is death match, death match, death match. So you have these death matches, and here's why the UFC wins out on this, is that they put you in death matches, and you last about maybe a year and a half, 2 years, if you're lucky, okay? And in that year and a half, 2 years, they grind every cent out of you that they can by paying you 8 to 10% of the pie. That's right. The pie is worth 100%. There's $100 in the pie. The fighters only get between $8 and $12 out of that $100. Something's wrong with the UFC. Anyway, last night's card, not a big card. It was on ESPN Plus. So if you missed it, we're going to say you didn't miss much. The UFC Heavyweight Championship on the line. Of course, UFC 241, August 17th from the Honda Center, Anaheim, California. Daniel Cormier, former light heavyweight champion, 205-pounder, moving up, of course, won the heavyweight championship by upsetting Stipe Miocic, the former Cleveland Golden Glove champion and Ohio State Golden Glove champion. But Stipe was supposed to be the boxer there, and he got knocked the muck out. He just did. Cormier looking fat, like 25 pounds over the, like 225, somewhere around. He looked a little fat, man, a little sloppy. He knocked, and sort of like, I guess, like the Andy Ruiz method. Except to a lesser extent of training. And because he did knock Stipe Miocic out. Stipe didn't have an answer for that. Ba-boom. Ice out, baby. You're done. Anthony Pettis in the co-feature taking on Nathaniel Diaz. Who's Nathaniel Diaz? A.K.A. Nate Diaz. Stockton, California, baby. The 209 area code. What can I say about Nate and Nick Diaz is, how come they don't have their own marijuana brands yet? Because they've got a CBD rule as far as the UFC is concerned now, and Nate Diaz is concerned. I think Nate showed up with a CBD pen and was hitting the CBD pen and said it was nothing but CBDs. But you and I all know that CBDs only work with THC for the most part. You've got to have some THC to really get that, to get the CBDs to rock a little bit. So I think he had a blend going on there. More power to him. Anyway, the bottom line is they do have a CBD rule. They call it the Nate Diaz rule, where guys can do CBDs before, during, and after a fight. Bottom line is Anthony Pettis, former lightweight champion, taking on Nate Diaz at welterweight. Interesting fight. Anthony, not much of a welterweight. Not much of a lightweight either, because, you know, when you go back to 155, he starves himself to 155, and he's got no fight in the tank. So it's sort of like he's in a bad spot, Pettis. Really can't fight at 155, and he's sort of small for 170. So he gets in a big money fight with Nate Diaz. So it's going to be a big money fight, because anytime Nate fights, of course, the pay-per-view numbers do well when the Diaz brothers fight, Nate or Nick. And remember I used to say, when I used to work in Tijuana, I worked for 2 years straight, once a month in Tijuana, like every Saturday, once a month. It was cool. Did some TV down there. Had a great time. But I used to walk through the streets of Tijuana late at night, 3 or 4 in the morning, sometimes going on back to the hotel. The Best Western. Anyway, it was funny is that I didn't feel scared. It just didn't feel. There were some main bad dudes out there, but just didn't feel scared walking through the streets of Tijuana. Always because I never wore slippery leather shoes, and I always knew I could outrun these guys if I had to. Remember that. Never wear slippery shoes when you go out. I'm trying to tell you guys this, because if something happens, you can slip and fall and this and that. But if something happens and some guy like checks your old lady or puts you in check or something like that, you can't do nothing because you're like on ice skates. Believe me, I've been to a lot of bar fights as a policeman, and saw a lot of guys beat up because they were wearing crummy shoes. Anyway, back to Nate Diaz and Anthony Pettis. Nate Diaz is probably going to win that fight with Pettis. Pettis is a good fighter, former lightweight champion, but not a good ground guy, and I think Nate Diaz will take that his BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, to the ground and take care of him. A middleweight contest is also on this bill. Pablo Acosta taking on Yoel Romero. Romero's like a 40-year-old former Olympic gold medalist from Cuba. Good fighter, but man, long in the tooth. Gabriel Benitez and Sagda Youssef. Do you know these guys? No, neither do I. Rest of the card, I really don't know. Kwang Ho Kang taking on Brandon Davis in a bantamweight bout. Want to bring in that Korean guys, but the bottom line is the UFC has no names. You heard Johnny Singh say it a little bit earlier. No names, man. It's got to be a name thing. It's got to be a name thing. And how they sold this for $4.2 billion, I just don't know. I mean, I keep scratching my head and saying to myself, okay, $4,200 million I'm paying for the UFC, and yet the UFC really doesn't have a whole lot of athletes, star athletes. And in order for this business to succeed, I'm going to need star athletes, right? No, I'm not. Don't you understand that ESPN Plus contract that Dana White signed and the UFC signed, that basically sealed their fate. They can do whatever they want. They can tell Conor McGregor to go jump in the lake. They told Chris Cyborg Santos they cut her loose after they burned her. Talk about burning the poor broad. I mean, come on, man. First of all, they said she looked. Dana said, I saw Dana on TV say that she looked like Wanderlei Silva, who is this Brazilian fighter at light heavyweight. The axe murderer is what they called him. That she looked like Wanderlei Silva in drag. And then Joe Rogan said on his podcast on YouTube and all that kinds of other stuff that Chris Cyborg Santos had a penis. Now, I used to joke about her being chromosomally challenged and that kind of good stuff, but I never implied that she had a male appendage. And I never implied that. Anyway, they took this to another level. Her daughter was confronted at school. Hey, man, did your mom have a penis? I watched it on TV. This guy said your mom has a penis. I mean, imagine that kind of stuff. So she gets into a beef with Dana White because Dana White says, you know what? She didn't want to have the rematch with Amanda Nunes, so they put her in this fight with some Spencer girl a couple of weeks ago anyway, and she beat her, okay? But that was the last fight on her UFC contract, and I think Dana White did this on purpose. She told her he didn't let the rematch happen like both girls wanted to. Both Amanda Nunes and Cyborg Santos wanted to do the rematch after that quick one-round knockout of Cyborg Santos by Amanda Nunes a couple of months ago. So they were going to do it again. I mean, but Dana said that, that Chris Cyborg Santos didn't want the rematch. She was, scared of it, didn't want it. So Chris said, you're full of spit. And I'm talking about spit with an H, right? So Chris Cyborg went after Dana White, made Dana White look like a fool, played Dana White up like a punk, okay, as he is. Because Dana White is a stone-cold punk. I mean, you guys say what you want. You guys say, oh, he's Dana. No, he's some stone-cold punk from East Boston, that's all. He's a guy that got a couple lucky breaks. He may be a billionaire now, but he's still that punk from East Boston in my mind, okay? I'll never forget when he came out here from East Boston, was trying to do his thing in Las Vegas, amateur boxing. Speaking of licking a stamp, he couldn't lick a stamp if he wet his tongue. He thought he was an amateur boxer. He couldn't teach boxing either as well. Who came out of his boxing gym? Anybody? No. And then, of course, Whitey Bulger ran him out. Whitey Bulger was the mafia in Boston, and he ran Dana White out of town when he told Dana White he wanted $2,500 in payoff money or protection money each month for his gym. Dana said, I didn't have $25, alone $2,500. So Dana, instead of paying the money, he left town, which is bad news because he went to Las Vegas and he hooked up with the Fertittas and he created the UFC. Now, I'm not trying to say the UFC wouldn't have came along, but I'm trying to say I think the UFC would have been better off without Dana White. I just think that Dana White's ego is too much. I've known Dana White before the UFC. I remember him in Las Vegas trying to be like a little 4-round, 6-round guy with trainers and all that kind of, trying to train fighters and manage fighters. That kind of goes. He was a 4-round guy at max. You know what I'm saying? A nothing in the world of boxing. Then he came into the world of the UFC. Of course, combined his knowledge or his fortitude with that of the Fertitta brothers and all their money. Of course, they own the Station casinos there in Las Vegas, the Palace casinos as well. They put that money together. They lost $35 million to go, so I got to give the Fertitta brothers props for staying in this. They lost $35 million. They tried to sell it. They couldn't sell it. They held on to it, and now it's worth $4.2 billion. After it was sold for $4.2 billion. So I guess a lot of that has to go to Dana White for credit. But when I look at Dana White, I look at the entire big picture. Dana White's sort of like the Vince McMahon of the UFC. And if you're looking at the WWE ratings, they suck. And if you look at the WWE house shows, they're terrible. I mean, they have to put curtains around the arena. You hear boos. There's all these empty seats. I mean, it's just, it ain't what it was. And how does that happen? I mean, how does the WWE go to from the hottest ticket in town to nobody wants to go? Well, bad programming. I mean, Vince McMahon. It's all Vince McMahon. If somebody farts on WWE television, Vince McMahon has drawn that fart into the script. There's nothing that gets done on WWE without Vince McMahon's approval. His stamp has to go on it. Not Paul Levesque, not Triple H, not Stephanie McMahon, and not Shane. It has to have Vince's stamp on it. That's the same thing that goes on with the UFC. It has to have Dana White's stamp on it. Okay? I think Dana White's stamp is like, but then who am I? He's created a $4.2 billion entity, right? Yeah, but he's created on the backs of fighters who he's underpaid. And I think that if you underpay fighters, that makes you a pimp. Like, sorry, what can I say? You're pimping somebody off. I mean, you're pimping these guys off in death matches, and that's what they are. Death match after death match. Some of these guys get $5,000, $10,000. Go in there and get their head taken off. Holy cow, come on. How much money is it worth? How much money is permanent damage worth? Because you know that these guys are suffering permanent damage when they're getting beaten on. Like Brian Ortega in that fight with Max Holloway a few months ago, December, I think, 2018. I mean, that was the most brutal fight I've ever seen. And I think there was a couple of other more brutal fights, but a brutal fight that wasn't stopped. Other brutal fights are going back. This fight wasn't stopped. The corner didn't stop the fight. Not until the fourth round. I think the doctor stopped the fight. But the doctor didn't step in. The referee didn't step in. The corner didn't step in. All three of these people that were supposed to protect Brian Ortega failed to protect him. So he'll never be the same. I don't think he'll be featherweight champion of the world. I don't think he'll be some iconic fighter that's able to go out and talk to the community and be handsome and be beautiful and this and that. I think that beating that Max Holloway put on him left permanent scars, and that's all there is to it, baby. And you don't come back from a beating like that. You just don't. So what am I trying to tell you? Dana White's a piece of spit. How do you spell spit? Spell it with an H. You tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide. We'll bring Johnny Sig back. This is hour number one of Ring Talk Live Worldwide. Of course, 2 hours, the Sunday edition, live on Sports Byline. Guitar, the great Jeff Tamalier. Man, Jeff's hung out with all kinds of bands. Starship, Tower of Power, Average White Band. Jeff gets around. I call him the Hendrix of funk. You are tuned to Ring Talk Live Worldwide, your inside look at the world of boxing, MMA. Of course, we bring back the undefeated lad from Las Vegas, Nevada. Rage's Progress. What's happening with this World Boxing Series? What's going on?
Oh, man, it's shady over there. What's going on is the WBBS, the World Boxing Super Series. What happened was they promised funds to a lot of their fighters, and unfortunately those funds were not being secured. The money wasn't there. Prograis threatened to pull out if he wasn't paid. I believe there's a lot of back payments, a lot of late payments going on with the World Boxing Super Series.
Man, you don't pay me back payments on a fight, my friend. When I'm fighting that day, I'm getting paid that day either before the fight or right then and there.
The wheels are falling off on this thing. Now, right now, Donaire and Inoue is scheduled for November 7th. I thought this whole thing was going to collapse because of insufficient funds in general. There's also a cruiserweight finale to be announced. But the Prograis-Taylor fight is off, and that's a shame because that's a really good fight, but I can't blame him. I did a thorough investigation on this for Prograis, and, you know, he wasn't getting paid for previous appearances, and he was worried about not getting paid.
John,
yeah.
Who is not paying? Who are these people? Who is not paying?
The financiers, the promoters of the World Boxing Super Series. You know what? I don't know. I know that Schaefer was originally involved, but he withdrew.
You mean Richard Schaefer, the hetero from Golden Boy?
Absolutely. Yeah, he was involved in season 1. He withdrew in season 2, and he had, issues of his own with
Withdrew.
them. Yeah, so there's. I don't think we see season 3. In other words, I don't think. Yeah, he pulled out.
Inside jokes there, folks. I'm sorry, but if you read between the lines, you got that one. You are tuned to Ring Talk, live worldwide, your inside look at the world of boxing and MMA. Hour number 2, Johnny Sig will be back with me, of course. Larry Holmes will open up hour number 2. If Larry picks up the phone, as we expect him to, he will pick up the phone and we will spend some time with Larry Holmes, of course, the world heavyweight champion, the Eastern Assassin. If you'd like to join me and Larry on the toll-free, you can. The toll-free is 1-800-878-7529. That's 1-800-878-7529. Or the guilt-free, no-commitment text line. Shoot Larry and me a text here in the studio. The text line, 415-275-1613. That's 415-275-1613. Ring Talk, hour number 2, still to come after the news.
'Cause I love you so.
Ladies and gentlemen, live from the West Coast, it's time for Ring Talk Live Worldwide.
Fascinating.
For over 30 years, and still, your inside look into boxing and mixed martial arts.
What the hell's going on out here?
Heard live around the world, and brought to you by the World Boxing Organization.
Yeah.
And now, live from the Ring Talk studios in San Francisco, here's the host of the longest-running fight show in history.
Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier! And Foreman is as poised as can be!
Pedro Fernandez.
Damas y caballeros, bienvenidos, ladies and gentlemen, live from the multi-million-dollar Sports Byline Studios in the city by the bay, San Francisco, California. Check it, sports fans. This is Ring Talk Live Worldwide. 35-plus years. Now get this, 36 years in just 3 weeks. 3 weeks from now, we celebrate 36 years of being on the radio. Listen, some people only live 36 years, let alone spend 36 years on the radio talking what they love. Of course, combat sports and boxing. Started back in 1984, did some shows with Charles J. in Florida. Then we moved to San Francisco to do the show on KEST. It's still rocking and rolling, KEST, 1450 AM. Get this. I was all in between an all-Filipino show and a Christian show. So the Filipino show would air, and then I would come on and do 15 minutes of Ring Talk and take phone calls and this and that. And then they would have the Christian show come on. Well, my fans weren't too hip to the Christian show, and they used to call the Christian show and say, "Where's the boxing guy at?" Bottom line is, those were the old days. Good Lord, man. I can't believe it's been like 1989 when we had Buster Douglas, of course, the future heavyweight champion of the world. When I interviewed him, everybody said to me, "Hey, what are you wasting your time interviewing that guy for?" Yeah, well, guess what? He beat up Mike Tyson, biggest upset in the history of boxing, no doubt about that. That's why I did that. He was challenging for the most gifted prize in combat sports, the World Heavyweight Championship. Right now, the World Heavyweight Championship is held, in my mind, by two guys. The lineal title is held by Mr. Tyson Fury. The World Heavyweight Championship, on my mind, in the other hand, is held by Andy Ruiz. Superman Andy, taking on Anthony Joshua, the rematch, December the 7th. You are tuned to Ring Talk, live worldwide, your inside look at the world of boxing, MMA. Let's hope Larry Holmes picks up the phone. You're tuned to Ring Talk.
I feel you in my mind. It happens all the time.
Now, back to Pedro Fernandez with the MMA Hour.
Looking back at Larry Holmes, get this, dropped out of school to feed his family, worked in a car wash for $1 an hour, drove a dump truck, worked in a quarry, of course, turned amateur, went 19-3 as an amateur, ended up being a sparring partner for guys like Muhammad Ali and Ernie Shavers and Joe Frazier and Jimmy Young, and he was holding his own. In fact, the first time I ever saw any film of Larry Holmes in my life was when he was beating up on Muhammad Ali in the Deer Lake Training Facility up there in Deer Lake, Pennsylvania. I mean, he was whooping up on Ali. I said, who is this guy throwing all these flashy combinations, lighting up Muhammad Ali like this? What's going on here? Ali was laying against the ropes, and Holmes was just lighting him up. I said, who is this guy? Well, it turned out to be Larry Holmes, the Eastern Assassin, of course. 75 professional fights, 69-6, 44 KOs. What were his biggest wins? I think some of his biggest wins were, I think his biggest win without a doubt was the Jerry Cooney win because of the money, the fact that racial animosity was so crazy at that point in time. Anyway, we now take it to Eastern Pennsylvania and bring in the mayor of Eastern Pennsylvania, Larry Holmes. Mayor, how are you this morning, sir?
I'm afraid you got the wrong guy. You were looking for the real mayor. My name is Larry Holmes.
But if I want something done in Eastern, Larry, I call you.
I can do a lot of things, but I am definitely not the mayor.
How's life treating you, champ?
Man, I've been doing good. How you been? I haven't talked to you in a while.
Oh, it's been about 3 or 4 months. I'm okay. You know, I mean, I'm still living. I'll turn 62 in November, and you'll turn 60. You'll turn 70 in November. We're getting up there. But guess what? We got a lot of time left on the clock. We're not playing with a short stick.
Yeah, we got time.
So how's the wife and family?
It's fine.
That's good. Tell me, what did you think of Anthony Joshua getting broken down by Andy Ruiz like he did? Talk to me about that. What was Larry Holmes thinking?
Well, I wasn't thinking nothing. Of course, they were making a lot of money, and I wasn't making nothing, so I can't think.
Larry, take the money aspect out of it for me. Joshua and Ruiz, did he break Anthony Joshua as a fighter? Can he ever be whole again?
One of the things you can tell that he'll be he's getting knocked out again. He'll have that because he got knocked out.
Okay.
It all depends how he hit him. If you hit him that way, then make him take another look at himself. He might not fight again.
Okay.
He didn't fight again.
So what do you do? What's a day like for Larry Holmes? What are you doing during the day? What's a day like?
Well, my day is hang out and play with the kids.
Yeah.
Go down to the office while I work a little bit. Cut some appearances, see if I can make some appearances.
You still got that young kid that he was a young kid 25 years ago. You still got that guy that was working in the office like 20 years ago. I can't think of his name right now, but he used to answer the phone all the time.
Yeah, he's on.
Okay. Wow, the phone's a horrible connection here. Larry, I got to ask you this. So, who is the heavyweight champion right now? Is it Andy Ruiz or is it Tyson Fury?
Close your eyes and take a pick.
Okay, good point. Anyway, Godfather, you take care of Eastern Pennsylvania. Say hello to the wife, and we'll talk real soon, okay?
Right, buddy. Okay.
All the best to you, Larry. Larry Holmes, of course, the Eastern Assassin. Was I really pleased with that phone line? No, I wasn't. That's why I cut the interview loose. We were supposed to go another 10 minutes. You are tuned to the Mighty Sports Byline Broadcast Network, live worldwide, open phone lines around the planet, 1-800-878-7529. That's 1-800-878-7529. I get more out of Larry when we talk on the phone, just me and him. So maybe I got to start taping. Maybe I got to start taping our phone calls together because we have some great conversations, talking smack about this person, talking back and forth. Who's doing this, who's doing that, where this person is now, where that person was then, all that kind of. We gossip. Larry and I gossip. We're both sort of gossip whores in the world of boxing. Sorry, but that's just the way it is. But the Eastern Assassin, Larry Holmes, spending some time with us on a not-so-good phone line. I keep telling him, I've told him time and time again, Larry, man, those phone lines got to be right. Oh, I'm calling you on my phone, my iPhone. Oh, anyway, bottom line is it doesn't work. We'll now go to Las Vegas and bring in the undefeated lad, John Signorella. Now, outside of that, how's the broadcast? How's your voice quality?
Let's check it out. Testing 1, 2. How are we?
I kept hearing these drums in the background. Like when Larry was talking, I kept hearing like the phone was dropping. It was like he was holding it next to his ear and it kept dropping. Anyway, bottom line is, I get impatient real quick and I just let that go.
I feel you, buddy.
Okay, no doubt about that. Now, we've got big fights coming up with Lomachenko on the 31st. Is Mr. Campbell going to present much of a challenge?
Well, Luke is 20-2, 16 KOs. He's tall. And that's what everyone's talking about for Luke coming into this fight against Lomachenko. Now, Lomachenko is very good at angles and range and going in and out of distance and really just leading the tempo of a fight. And I think it totally negates Campbell's best advantage, which is his height. Lomachenko is very, very difficult to face. So I think he gets past Luke Campbell in his next assignment fairly easily.
I'm going to take you back to your the East Coast. This kid's a bit of a weird guy. I'm talking about Peter Quillen. They called him Kid Chocolate. I'm looking at his boxing career here, and I know Al Heyman gave him some money not to fight, but he was pretty consistent there in 2012. 2012 he had a couple of fights. 2013 2 fights. 2014 1 fight. 2015 2 fights. 2015 3 fights, and then he didn't fight in 2016. Came back in 2018. And then one fight, has 2 fights since then. What I'm trying to get to here is, how can I put this? I want to put this nicely. Was he ever the real deal, or was he just a fraud?
I hate to call him a fraud, and I met him a few times. Nice guy. I like the gimmick afterwards when he was throwing the chocolate to the audience after he won. The thing was, I think the level of opposition he was facing made people believe at the time that he was better than he really was. He got exposed against Danny Jacobs, got knocked out really early in that fight. And from what I'm told from people that know him on a personal level is that he kind of lost motivation. He lost his drive and desire after that to box. He's coming back, I think, now because that's his career, He
was afraid of Andy Lee. No. I think it was a split decision draw between him and Andy Lee, and they mandated a rematch with Andy Lee, and he didn't want no part of it. So he gave up the belt.
Tell you what, Andy, I know, Andy could fight though. He should have took the rematch there, but he must have saw something in those 12 rounds they shared together that he felt he couldn't beat Lee at that point in time. But I don't see a bright future for him. He's taking on Caleb Truax in a rematch. They had a weird set of circumstances that happened in the first fight. Not really looking forward to seeing him fight. I just wish him the best, though. He is a nice guy.
I'm going to say this to you, okay? I wish I could have fought Andy Lee in the Golden Gloves. That's all I've got to say, because he was limited. He didn't have speed. All he had was a good corner and Emmanuel Stewart, and he was in well-conditioned guy. But as far as talent was concerned, I mean, what did he do that was outstanding, Johnny? What were his outstanding traits? Were there any?
It was Emmanuel Stewart. His choice in having Emmanuel Stewart or Emmanuel Stewart embracing him. Andy was very lucky that Emmanuel took him on like a son. Emmanuel cared for that kid a whole bunch. And if it wasn't for Manny, whatever talents that Andy Lee had wouldn't be enough to be, considered world class.
He cared for me too. I stayed in his house when I went to Detroit. We used to pocket the hotel money. I used to say to him, I got like $600 in hotel money. So what? Keep it. I mean, so he was sort of. I just missed the Goldfather so much. Gone, I think, since 2012, of course, dying of cancer. Just a bad way to go. And I'll never forget his last text a week before he died. This is a tough fight, kid. And that was it. No more Emmanuel Stewart. You are tuned to the mighty Sports Byline Broadcast Network.
You're listening to the MMA Hour. Now, more of the MMA Hour with Pedro Fernandez.
Taking it back to Las Vegas, baby, the desert, and bringing in the undefeated lad, of course, John Signorella. And, John, I got to ask you, man, Eddie Hearn, is he a crook?
Lately, his business practice been looking very dicey. Which situation right now are we referring to? The Andy Ruiz, Anthony Joshua situation?
No, I mean, is there more than one front I could possibly imply that he's a crook on?
There's a lot going on, even more in detail with this Andy Ruiz situation. It's not really a done deal from what I understand. That Andy Ruiz is having a hard time signing off right now to face Joshua in Saudi Arabia because they apparently, meaning Eddie Hearn and Joshua, took in a massive amount of site fee money, upwards of over $40 million, and Ruiz wants a piece of that pie. And Eddie Hearn's saying, buddy, your contract, your original contract for your rematch clause states $9 million flat rate fee. So they don't want to give him any taste of that Saudi Arabian money that's floating around, which we know is going to be beyond $40 million because you're going to deal with pay-per-views, merchandise, and live gate. Andy Ruiz, from my understanding, has not signed the contract just yet.
Man, if I was Andy, I would tell him to go get ducked. I just saw it. I would, man. I mean, I hate to say it, put it like that, man. But listen, he should be in more of a driver's seat than than he is. And the reason why I'm saying that, I realize he's still considered the B side of the record. But you know what? The B side beat the snot out of the A side of the record already once. So he either deserves parity or a bigger cut of the pie this time.
And I think that's what Andy's trying to say. Hey, listen, I'll go to Saudi Arabia. I'll go to a site where Joshua is more than welcome because apparently he hangs out with government officials there regularly. So Eddie's trying to say it's a neutral site is what I'm getting at. I don't really think it's a neutral site for both guys if Joshua is, known to be hanging out there regularly, especially with, people in power over in Saudi Arabia. A neutral site to me would be I don't know, someplace in mid-America, But I thought the fight was going to go to Los Angeles. Andy Ruiz wanted it in Mexico. I thought that would have been really cool. I knew he wasn't going to get that. They were going to give that to him.
So are you trying to tell me that Anthony Joshua spending time in Saudi Arabia banging Amir Khan's wife?
I think that's exactly what I'm saying here, yeah.
That's what you were alluding to. I wanted to get it out there, man. That's basically, I just can imagine, Anthony Joshua's and brothers saying, you know what? Of all the places I want to hang out in the world, let me go hang out in Saudi Arabia. It's a hellhole. It's hot. I've been there, man. All you do is sweat, and the chicks sweat. In other words, if you're not in air-conditioned stuff all the time, you're a sweat hog. And it's just the way, it's terrible, man. It's like 100, listen, I was over there and they tell me this was the cold time during the buy. It was 117 degrees during the daytime. And I said, what do you mean this is the cold? This is sort of like our winter, Pedro. I went, oh God. Of course, living in 120 degrees. Bottom line is, though, they are putting forth the big money, so I guess they do to get across some of the shots, but I think that Mr. Ruiz, he is the current world heavyweight title holder, and he destroyed. It wasn't like Oscar De La Hoya and Shane Mosley back in 2000 when the A side of the record lost to the B side record on a close decision. This was an outright annihilation.
Great display of hand speed, combination punching, will, skill, and just determination. Ruiz suffered a knockdown himself in that fight, which even super motivated him. And it was the exact opposite of what happened to Joshua when Joshua got hurt. Joshua got hurt, and then all of a sudden you saw the dog come out and like a puppy dog, not like a dog. All of a sudden he started to just kind of cower and whimper around a little bit and just look very lost, like he didn't know how to deal with someone beating on him, And Andy Ruiz showed a lot of grit in that fight, and I think Joshua showed his true colors as for him, when the going gets tough, he doesn't get going. He gets out.
How come nobody's willing to join me in my gangster slapping Mikey Garcia? For the most part, Larry Merchant won't get involved. And I told you, got into a big argument at the Retired Boxers Association meeting a couple of weeks ago where some guy says to me, he put up a good fight. I said, how many punches did he land? And the guy, Mikey Garcia. I said, how many hard punches did he land? Tell me, what round did he win? Wait, take that back. Give me one round in which he won a minute, and what minute was that? The guy couldn't defend anything of what I said, and he said to me, you just don't know boxing.
For me, Mikey Garcia claimed he had this big plan going into that fight. He said he saw something that would enable him to win. He didn't see anything.
Saw the check. Right?
And for me... Yeah, he saw the check, exactly. But the check was there. There's other fighters around the realm of his weight class in which he could face, And I think it's the most mismanaged career of a good talent. And maybe he wanted to go up and face other guys for big paychecks and have excuses if he was to lose. Well, they're bigger than me, whatever. Because maybe he felt at his weight class he couldn't really fight those guys and would have been exposed by, Lomachenko.
Okay. August 17th, the once-beaten WBO 122-pound guy, one of my favorites, Emmanuel Navarrete, is coming back against Francisco de Vaca. That's on ESPN. Is that on ESPN or ESPN Plus?
This one's on ESPN regular.
Okay, ESPN. So if you have ESPN Plus, can you still watch it?
Yes, you can. It's a little tricky to figure out.
Yeah, I know. You told me about that. Yeah. Johnny's got jumper cables over there or something like that, folks. That's the best way to describe it. He's like jumping one feed to another one with these cables.
Oh, man.
Anyway, Facebook, August 22nd, Luis Feliciano and Gennaro Gamaz. Who's doing Facebook? Who's a promoter?
Bunch of different guys? It's a golden... Usually, yeah, it's a Golden Boy thing. Ring TV is usually affiliated, which we know that Oscar owns the Ring magazine, and Ring TV is the television network for Ring magazine. So I believe it's a Golden Boy show.
August 23rd, Showtime's coming back. You kept telling me that Showtime's dead. Vladimir Shishkin, Shishkin. I did not say the T word. I said Shishkin. Anyway, taking on DeAndre Ware in a super middleweight bout. Showtime. Showtime back in boxing, yeah or nay?
Nah, this card could be that word you said you didn't say right there. And for this one, it's another Showbox card, and they're just lacking championship boxing. And a lot of people are asking me, how come they did not announce this Deontay Wilder card coming up, right? Everyone's anticipating that would have been Showtime because Showtime did so heavily into his last fight. But here's what's up. I think that fight's going to Fox pay-per-view, meaning Deontay Wilder and Luis Ortiz. And I think that's the final nail in the coffin for Showtime. If they lose Deontay Wilder in a date for the fall in a major fight in that rematch against Luis Ortiz, what a terrible year for Showtime. What do they have left?
Showtime brought this smack on themselves. They saw what was happening in the apps. You know what they should have done? They should have developed a Showtime app for boxing. I mean, they should have done something, man. They just sat back and watched these apps move in and take over. Anyway, moving up to the 24th of the month, ESPN Plus, back on the app. Sergey Kovalev, twice beaten light heavyweight champion, WBO title holder, taking on Anthony Yarde, who's handled by Andre Ward, who broke down and made Sergey Kovalev your uncle.
I tell you what, this is a tough fight. Anthony Yarde, 18-0, 17 KOs from the UK. Very good fighter. He's being tested here. Does Sergey still have what he showed in the last fight in the rematch against Alito Alvarez, where he looked very good? But we've also seen, we talked about, Joshua, caving when the going gets tough. We saw that look with Kovalev, the second fight with Andre Ward, the body shots. Yes, some of them were on the testicles, right? But in the first fight,
were they that low?
There was a couple there, man.
Were there a couple that were real low?
If that cup rides up, Pete, the little boys get squished.
You know what? Here's what's up. Let me run something by you, okay? The cup was designed to hit with a baseball bat. You can go back and look at these old videos from the 1930s with these guys winding up with baseball bats and hitting guys in the nuts with baseball bats, okay? So if the cup is fitted properly, you don't get hurt.
I agree.
Okay, you don't get hurt. But guess what? Yeah. If you play around and put on a 10-cent cup, you deserve to have your nuts cracked.
Can't be rocking that community cup.
Hey, and I remember that in those Golden Glove tournaments and some of those amateur tournaments, my mother bought me my own equipment, the headgear and all that kind of good stuff. She goes, I don't want you using that. I understood. I was like a sanitary guy. I definitely understood that. But I remember guys were like sharing cups. Nah.
That's what I'm saying.
Nah.
One time I was invited to spar, and I was just there training with someone, and I'm like, listen, I don't have anything. I don't have a mouthpiece with me. I don't have a cup. Guy's like, homies, you can use my cup. I'm like, I'm not rocking no community cup. Come on.
The 24th, one of the best fighters, pound for pound in all of boxing, Juan Francisco Estrada. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
This
guy is dangerous.
He's on the zone taking on Dewan Beeman. Tell me how many chances does Dewan have? Is it slim and none?
And Slim left town, yeah. I tell you why. The guy's got a record at 16-1-1, 11 KOs. But I think Juan Francisco Estrada is top 10 on my pound-for-pound list, and just different levels and a different league against a guy like this. I think the only people that could actually test him is like Donnie Naete's down there. If him and Inoue could figure out a way.
Time out. I'm glad you brought that up. So Inoue and Donaire, with this World Boxing Series going under as far as money is concerned, that might not happen, huh?
Right now it's signed. Let's see if it's sealed and delivered. According to them, they've announced it. And I looked up the outfit, the promotional outfit for who runs the World Boxing Super Series, and it's a company I've never heard of, Camosa Fabrications AG. What does that mean? What is that? But Schaefer was involved, and he bounced out from those guys over there. I don't think we see a season 3. Hopefully we get this fight, and hopefully Donaire saves face.
One of my favorite macho men, Richard Schaefer. Without a doubt. When you want to talk masculinity and macho-ness, it's Richard Schaefer in my book.
Well, maybe that's why he left Golden
You didn't comment on that, Johnny, and you let that one go. You are tuned to the Mighty Sports Byline Broadcast Network. We're having fun at Richard Schaefer's expense, because Richard Schaefer is the most softest guy you've ever come in contact with your life. And that's just the way I took the Richard Schaefer. We talked back and forth. He had a very weak handshake, and, I just didn't, it didn't go over too well, me and Richard Schaefer. Just put it like, and listen, I'm not anti-gay. I'm from San Francisco. Now, I didn't say he was gay. I just said that he acted a little feminine. That's all. Bottom line is, you are tuned to Ring Talk, my world on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network. Johnny Sigel, stick around. Of course, next up, we'll hear about the Gracie conspiracy of UFC 1, told by the one and only. I'll talk about Big Superfoot, Bill Superfoot Wallace. Bill Wallace was a bad dude. I had him on the show like in the 80s and a couple times in the 90s. I tried to dig up some tapes, can't find them. But the bottom line is, Bill Superfoot Wallace tells you about all the scams that went down for UFC 1 and how the UFC got on the map with Royce Gracie. That and more as we continue on the Mighty Sports Byline Broadcast Network.
Joshua looks so tired. I think he wants out. That's it. He says that's it. Andy Ruiz is the heavyweight champion.
You're listening to the MMA Hour. Now, back to Pedro Fernandez with the MMA Hour.
In the 1980s, it was sort of cool, man. I got to hang out with a guy named Bill Wallace, who was called Superfoot. He was an undefeated kickboxer. He was 23-0 with 13 knockouts. I kid you not, 23-0. Nobody could touch this guy. He was a middleweight champion, PK middleweight champion. I mean, he was the face of kickboxing. I remember that when the UFC came into play, that he did the first telecast as far as the commentator was concerned. And, right back, there was a lot of shade, right back and then and there, in 1993, there was a lot of shadiness involved in the UFC and how Royce Gracie ended up becoming the first UFC champion. Anyway, here's Bill Superfoot Wallace Unplugged.
What's up? I'm Jesse from KarateByJesse.com, a.k.a. the Karate Nerd, and today I am joined by the one and only Sensei Bill Superfoot Wallace. Thank you so much, Sensei, for joining us today. So, what many people might not know is that you were actually the commentator of the very first UFC fight.
Yes.
Could you take us there, bring us behind the scenes, and tell us what actually went on in the early beginnings of the UFC?
What happened is, Rorion Gracie, my father, calls me up and he says, Bill, we would like you to commentate at our first, fighting championships.
Yeah.
And I went, whoa, well, yeah, I could do that, no problem. I don't think it's going to go well because martial artists are not in. They like the kickboxing part of it, but they didn't like the grappling part of it. And so, sure, I'll do that because you're paying me a lot of money.
Okay, yeah.
So I go and I show up. I'm with Jim Brown, who was the American football player, and Kathy Long, who was also a lady kickboxer.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, we're going over it. Now, there's no pre-runs or anything. We're just that I get there on Friday, the thing happens Saturday.
Okay.
So they have the meeting and everything. There are no rules. The two rules were you can't stick your fingers in a guy's eye and you can't kick him in the groin.
Right.
That's the two rules. I went, okay.
Interesting.
Yep. And the participants could not wear hand wraps.
No.
Could not wear leg wraps. And just like it was. And they had to wear a mouthpiece because of, test the teeth.
Groin cup?
Yeah.
Okay.
And when the fights happened, I have a guy sitting beside me from the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu telling me what to say about the Gracies.
All right.
So it's to push the Gracie. So basically I'm thinking, something doesn't sound right here.
Right.
It seems to me like it's a 2-hour advertisement for Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, which is what it turned out to be. I mean, Royce did a fantastic job, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I mean, he didn't punch anybody.
No.
He didn't kick anybody.
No.
He just got him down, took him down with a double leg. Every time was a double leg takedown.
Yeah.
And he choked him out.
Right.
No arm bars, choked all of them out. And the first time I said, okay. And I think it was Royce's second match against Ken Shamrock.
Yeah.
They're fighting, and Ken Shamrock's coming in for a double leg takedown.
Yeah.
And Royce reaches under his belt and grabs his own belt.
Right.
And chokes Ken Shamrock out.
Okay.
Ken Shamrock chokes.
Yeah.
Taps.
Yeah.
They get up, or you can't do it, you can't do it. And finding out was Ken Shamrock accused him, which is rightfully so, that you can't reach under and grab the belt and choke me out with your own belt.
Yeah.
Well, yes, you can, because as we know in martial arts training, our uniform is also a weapon.
Right. So that was allowed according to the rules.
Yeah. Ken Shamrock wasn't for it. He was upset.
Right.
But he lost.
Right.
And then Hoist just went through their belts, choking everybody out.
Right.
And behind him, choking out. And, but just, choke him out.
Exactly. So are you saying they kind of organized this thing? I don't want to say it's a conspiracy theory, but...
No, it wasn't.
Was it like a marketing stunt, but almost? For the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu system?
Oh, sure. It had to be. Because they picked the fighters.
Oh, really?
They picked... Florian Gracie picked the fighters.
So they probably picked fighters that would look good against Brazilian...
Of course it would, yeah. Because you got to stand up, the hands are here.
Right.
How easy is it now for you to drop down and do a double leg takedown?
Yeah.
Because they'd never seen it before.
Right.
They had never seen a takedown before.
No.
They're stand-up fighters.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they have no idea how to even react to it. The boxer didn't even throw a punch.
No, exactly.
The boxer never threw a punch.
They're just shooting for the double leg.
Turned him down, and that was it. And what I don't understand, too, is they had a big sumo wrestler.
Oh, yeah, right.
What's the job of a sumo wrestler? To push you out of a circle about this size.
Right.
I push you out, I win.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to strike.
No.
He doesn't know how to kick.
No.
He doesn't know how to choke or armbar. He just pushes you out of a ring.
Yep.
It's a closed ring. You can't get out of there.
Right.
So what are you going to do? Push him against the wall until he suffocates or something? And I'm sure that's what he wanted to get him down, lay on top of him. Maybe something. So what happens is this kid from the Netherlands just nails him. He comes in for the guy drops down to his knees.
Yeah.
And the guy from the Netherlands, I can't remember his name, just nails him right in the face with a roundhouse kick.
Right.
And the tooth goes flying over my head.
Oh.
I went, what's this shit? Then he steps down, and the kid's still sitting there. Yeah. Punch him right in the mouth.
Oh.
Now, the kid from the Netherlands broke his foot.
Really?
And then broke his hand on the kid's face.
Oh. Brutal.
But they stopped the match.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know why.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't hurt. Bleeding a little bit, but he wasn't hurt. I mean,
really?
the guy was 350 or 400 some pounds. How are you going to? It's like a log.
Yeah.
So he wasn't hurt. And he said, "Why are you stopping the fight? Why are you stopping?" Oh no, it's only because they knocked the tooth out.
Huh.
But it was okay.
Yeah.
So there's another conspiracy.
Right.
Because now you're saying, now just a minute.
Right.
If this guy can hit this guy with his best shot, two best shots, and nothing happened, what happened? How's Hoist going to take him down?
Oh.
Hoist going to get dropped down for the double leg, and he just flattens out on his back.
Oof. Yeah.
Now Floyd's on his stomach, flattened out. This guy's going,
So they wanted him out.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then one of the guys who was a really good boxer, really good puncher, asked him not to use the smoke because he had asthma.
Okay.
So they used the smoke anyway. You're coming out there about halfway through the matches.
So like smoke machines.
Sure. You go, now hold it just a minute. What the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
So, there's 8 guys, which means there's 7 fights.
Yeah.
Right? 4.
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
Then 1, right?
Right.
And you go, okay, what the heck's going on here?
Right.
But I never thought it would be as popular as it was.
No?
No, I never did.
How come?
Because the first time I saw it, I didn't like it.
No?
The first time I saw it, I said, well, that's bull. Because, number one, Hoist never threw a kick. He threw one kick to keep the guy away from him.
Right.
And never threw a punch. He just stands there like this and drops down.
Yeah.
And plus, he was the only one
yeah.
that was allowed to wear a uniform. The other guys couldn't even wrap their hands.
No.
But he was allowed to wear the uniform.
So when they couldn't wrap their hands, they can barely punch full contact.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
And you got guys that because I want to wrap my knees. No, you can't wrap your knees.
No.
But Hoist is allowed to wear all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you go, hold it, what, I don't understand this.
Yeah.
And I think the reason I wasn't invited back, one of the reasons, and there are several.
Oh, so you were not invited back?
No.
Okay.
I asked too many questions. I said, why don't you have a regular wrestler there?
Right.
A wrestler that knows how to defend against
there was no wrestler?
No. There was 6 strikers.
Yeah.
Strikers.
Right.
Hoist.
Yeah.
And the sumo wrestler.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like it was basically set up for a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner
to win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they all had to, don't get me wrong, they all had their chance to win.
Sure.
Yeah. But Hoist knows how to defend that.
Right.
But this is 1993.
And they didn't know how to defend
they know
that.
How to defend against the takedown. Even though you say, well, I've practiced. No, you haven't.
Right.
Not against a guy that knows how to do the takedown.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, and Hoist was the reason. The first one he won. The second one he won. The third one, where they changed the rules a little bit because the time was taking too long.
I see. Yeah, so for the pay-per-view?
Yeah, and on the third one, he had the grand championship match between Ken Shamrock and Hoist.
Yeah.
A rematch, you might say. Well, he came here, shot him with a punch right here, split him wide open. But it didn't do anything. All it did was cut him.
Right, yeah.
And so they finally called it a draw because it was...
Right.
And so, but,
But that's how Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu became so famous.
Oh, yeah.
Because it looked so effective.
Well, they keep saying most fights end up on the ground.
Yeah, I hear that all the time.
Well, all fights start standing up.
That's true.
All fights start standing. So, if I stand up and I'm from me to her.
Yeah.
She's got to come close to me before she can do anything, before she can punch me, before she can kick me, before she can do a takedown, right?
Exactly.
That gives me the chance to counter.
Yeah.
Well, they're not used to that because if I'm standing right here and I do that, you got to put your hand, then I drop in for the double leg.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
And the stand-up fighters, naive that they are, they say, well, when he stops in, I'll just punch him in the mouth.
Right.
No, you won't, because I'll do this first.
Yeah.
You put your hands up, then I'll drop down.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it worked very well because now Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is one of the world's largest, most popular martial arts.
Yep. But what did they have to do? They had to learn to strike.
Oh, yeah.
Because remember, we learned how to defend against it.
Exactly.
So they had to learn how to strike to get in there.
Especially against a wrestler who knows the double leg takedowns and knows the defense.
I mean, in wrestling, the double leg is the first takedown you're taught.
Yeah.
It's also the first takedown you learn to defend.
So imagine if a wrestler had been invited to the first UFC.
Imagine that.
And if that wrestler knew a little bit of striking so he could do ground and pound, for example.
Imagine that.
Maybe the whole martial arts world would look different.
Imagine that.
Wow.
They're in the process now of even trying to get rid of wrestling in the Olympics.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah. And it was the very first one.
Yeah.
It was in the Olympics, the very first Olympics back in so many AD.
Right.
So think about this.
Yeah.
If they want to get rid of the wrestling.
Yeah.
Now, how many people will not be using wrestling techniques, but the Gracies still will?
Exactly. So you could say they have something of an unfair advantage.
Well, no, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They know how to work the chokes. They know how to work the arm bars.
Yeah.
They know how to work. So most of them now have learned the striking aspect of it.
Yeah, exactly.
The speed aspect.
And they managed to combine that.
And they don't mind you taking them down. Because now, even though, you're on top, I'm in the on-guard position to where I've got my legs wrapped around you.
Right.
And pretty soon you get frustrated.
Right.
You reach, I get the arm. Right. You reach, I get the leg.
Yeah.
So what happens is UFC now.
Exactly. So what do you think, looking at the first UFC to all the way, looking at the evolution of it, comparing that to today?
Oh, it's 100% different.
It is?
Sure.
Right.
It's because the rules have changed.
Yeah.
Now there are rules. Before there were not, remember?
Yeah.
Now, it's a funny thing that if I'm on the ground, I can kick you in the face.
Yeah.
But you can't kick me at all, anywhere.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
You can't punch me in the back of the head.
Right.
Why?
One might argue that those rules favor a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner.
Shame on you, Jesse. You shouldn't talk like that. But again, it's the, and I hate to use the term sport of it.
Yeah.
It's like two gladiators out there fighting.
Right.
Except this time, hopefully, the loser doesn't die.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I don't like to watch it because I hate that term ground and pound.
Okay.
Think about this, ground and pound. What's that say to you? You get it down the ground, you beat on it, you beat it, until he says, I quit.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't even happen out in the street.
Right.
There's going to be somebody going to pull you off.
Yeah.
Just me. I like to check people.
Bill Superfoot Wallace is telling it like it is. When I've cornered him, I cornered him a couple times at airports. I'm one of those guys that when you're at the airport, I just like walk up to you and turn the tape recorder on and start talking. Okay, don't even tell you, hey, blah, 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 blah. And the bottom line is, Bill Superfoot Wallace just tells it like it is. He's 73 years old now, still in shape, still got great kicks, still got the moves. What can I say? One of a kind, Bill Superfoot Wallace, the icon of kickboxing. You're tuned to the mighty Sports Byline Broadcast Network.
You're listening to the MMA Hour.
So check this out. Last night I go to the Parmesan Winery in Saratoga, California, this outdoor arena. Of course, they've got Los Lonely Boys and Los Lobos. Sapo opened. Sapo was like the original model. Anyway, Suavecito, that kind of a local band. Anyway, it was Tex-Mex for like 3 hours. Johnny, if I ever hear an accordion again in my life, I will shoot myself. I will shoot myself.
Gunman killed 9 people in a popular Dayton nightlife area.